The air hung heavy and humid on July 14, 2015, at Camp Hemlock, a rustic summer retreat tucked away in the sprawling Adirondack Park of upstate New York. The late afternoon sun, though muted by thick canopy, still beat down, pushing temperatures to a sweltering 88 degrees and 35 yards. 12-year-old twins Michael and David Miller had been enjoying their second week at camp, their identical grins a familiar sight amongst the dozens of boisterous children. Their cabin counselor, Sarah Jenkins, last saw them around 4:30 p.m., heading towards the recreation hall for an evening activity. She reminded them to stick to the marked paths, a warning that would soon echo with haunting irony. The boys never made it to the recreation hall. As dusk settled and the first stars began to pierce the darkening sky, a subtle unease rippled through the camp. Roll call at 7:00 p.m. confirmed their absence. Initial calls to their cabin went unanswered. By 8:30 p.m., the camp director, a stern man named Mr. Peterson, initiated a preliminary search of the grounds. Flashlights cut through the deepening gloom, their beams dancing through the trees, revealing nothing but the dense undergrowth and the silent sentinels of ancient pines. The camp, usually a hub of joyful noise, grew eerily quiet. At 9:15 p.m., with no sign of Michael or David, Mr. Peterson made the call to the local authorities. The dispatcher at the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office logged the first 911 call concerning the missing boys at 9:18 p.m. The camp's GPS coordinates were provided: 43.9 degree N, 74.39 degree W, deep within the heart of the wilderness. The initial report was vague, a desperate plea for assistance for two missing children. The dispatcher, accustomed to minor incidents, noted the unusual urgency in Peterson's voice. The description given was simple: two identical twin boys, both wearing red Camp Hemlock t-shirts and khaki shorts. As the first patrol car, a Ford Explorer with Unit 37 on its side, sped down the winding, unpaved road towards the camp, a sense of foreboding settled over the region. The thick forest, usually a comforting embrace, now felt like a suffocating presence. The night air grew cooler, carrying the faint scent of pine and damp earth, a stark contrast to the earlier heat. Deputy Mark Johnson, behind the wheel of Unit 37, knew this territory well. He also knew how quickly the wilderness could swallow someone whole. He radioed dispatch, confirming his estimated arrival time at 9:45 p.m. The silence on the other end, broken only by the crackle of the radio, amplified the gravity of the situation. What had started as a simple search for two mischievous boys was rapidly escalating into something far more sinister. The camp, once a haven of summer fun, was now a potential crime scene. The first 48 hours after a disappearance are often called the golden hours, a critical window where the chances of finding someone alive are highest. At Camp Hemlock, that window slammed shut with brutal speed. Deputy Johnson arrived shortly after 9:45 p.m. on July 14, 2015, his headlights cutting through the inky blackness. He immediately established a command post in the camp's main office. Within the hour, additional deputies and search and rescue teams from the New York State Police converged on the site, their vehicles lining the narrow dirt road, lights flashing a grim beacon in the wilderness. The search grid was established almost immediately. Teams fanned out, working in methodical lines, their voices calling out the boys' names, their flashlights piercing the dense undergrowth. The terrain was challenging. Steep inclines, rocky outcrops, and thickets of thorny bushes made progress slow and arduous. Every rustle of leaves, every snapped twig, sent a jolt of desperate hope through the searchers. The temperature dropped significantly overnight, reaching a chilly 50 degrees, 10 degrees, adding another layer of concern for the lightly dressed boys. A crucial radio dialogue was captured during the early hours of July 15th. Dispatcher, Unit 37, what's your status? Deputy Johnson, still no visual dispatch. Grid Sector Alpha 4. We've got a strong scent dog, K9 Atlas, working the perimeter of the abandoned lodge. He's showing interest. Dispatcher, copy that, Unit 37. Any signs of forced entry at the lodge? Deputy Johnson, negative. Doors are boarded, windows mostly broken, but the dog seems to want to go around to the rear cellar entrance. Dispatcher, proceed with caution. Confirm cellar access is secure. The focus quickly shifted to the dilapidated, long-abandoned lodge, a place that held a chilling mystique among the campers. The K-9 unit indeed showed significant interest around the old stone foundation and the remnants of a cellar door, long since covered by overgrown vines and fallen debris. Footprints were discovered near the back of the lodge, two distinct sets, size youth 5 and 6, consistent with the boys' shoe sizes. They led directly towards the overgrown cellar entrance, then simply stopped. It was as if the ground had swallowed them whole. The discovery sent a ripple of alarm through the search party. The thought of two young boys venturing into such a dangerous, derelict structure was deeply unsettling. By the morning of July 15th, the search intensified. Helicopters were requested, and the local news stations began to pick up the story, their reporters descending on the camp, their presence a stark reminder of the escalating crisis. The golden hours were ticking away, and every second felt like an eternity. The footprints, though a significant lead, also presented a terrifying possibility. If the boys had entered the cellar, what had happened to them inside that dark, forgotten space? Comment, hope, if you'd search forever. As the initial 48 hours slipped away without a trace of Michael and David, the search operation at Camp Hemlock expanded dramatically. By July 16, 2015, the dense Adirondack wilderness around the camp swarmed with hundreds of volunteers, a testament to the community's desperate hope. Local fire departments, civilian search and rescue organizations, and even concerned residents from neighboring towns joined the effort, their determination etched on their weary faces. The search grid now extended for miles in every direction, reaching into the remotest parts of the state park, meticulously mapped to ensure no stone was left unturned. The sheer scale of the operation, involving personnel from various agencies, was unprecedented for such a rural area. Overhead, the rhythmic thud of rotor blades became a constant presence. A Bell 407 helicopter, equipped with FLIR, forward-looking infrared technology, systematically scanned the heavily forested terrain, its thermal cameras searching for any heat signature that might indicate human presence. The FLIR operator meticulously reviewed the feed, hoping for a telltale glow in the cool forest, but found nothing. The thick canopy, however, significantly hampered the effectiveness of the thermal imaging as it struggled to penetrate the dense layers of leaves and branches. The helicopter made over 30 passes over the target area, covering approximately 20 square miles. News crews, now a permanent fixture at the camp entrance, broadcast live updates, their reports amplifying the palpable anxiety gripping the region. A snippet from a local news report on July 16, 2015, captured the mounting desperation. Reporter, we're here at Camp Hemlock, where the search for Michael and David Miller, missing since Monday evening, has entered its third day. Despite an overwhelming response from volunteers and law enforcement, there has been no significant breakthrough. The terrain is incredibly challenging, and hopes are beginning to wane as each hour passes without a sign of the boys. Sheriff's deputy, interviewed. We're exploring every avenue. Every lead, no matter how small, is being pursued. We urge anyone with information, no matter how insignificant it may seem, to contact the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office immediately. The safety of these children is our paramount concern. The presence of the abandoned lodge, particularly the cellar, continued to haunt investigators. Although the initial search of its interior revealed nothing, the lingering question of the vanishing footprints remained. A more thorough, methodical search of the dilapidated structure was ordered, focusing on every nook and cranny. Detective Sergeant Eleanor Vance, a veteran of the New York State Police with a reputation for meticulousness, joined the investigative team, arriving at 07 Gauss AM on July 16th. She immediately noted the peculiar silence within the old lodge, a quiet that felt deeper than mere abandonment. The air inside was stagnant, heavy with the scent of decay and damp earth. No signs of struggle, no discarded items. No obvious clues were found during the second, more exhaustive sweep. It was as if the boys had simply stepped into a void, evaporating into thin air. The vastness of the search area, combined with the lack of any concrete evidence, only deepened the chilling mystery surrounding the vanished twins. Had they entered the lodge, or had their footprints been a diversion, leading investigators down a path away from the true circumstances of their disappearance, while the wilderness slowly reclaimed its secrets? The disappearance of the Miller twins ignited a firestorm of media attention, transforming Camp Hemlock into a grim tableau for national news outlets. Every development, every rumor, was amplified, and the ensuing frenzy spawned a torrent of false leads and wild speculation. The public, gripped by the story of the vanished boys, offered theories ranging from abduction by a stranger to an unfortunate wilderness accident. Each tip, no matter how improbable, had to be rigorously pursued by the already overwhelmed investigative team. The pressure from both the public and the media was immense, with daily updates demanded by network affiliates and online news sources. The sheer volume of incoming calls to the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, reaching over 200 per day in the first week, stretched resources thin. One such tip arrived on July 20th, 2015, 4 days after the boys vanished. A man named Arthur Art Jenkins, a self-proclaimed psychic living 50 miles away and speculator, contacted the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. He claimed to have had a vivid dream about the boys being held in a hidden underground bunker, guarded by a man with a distinctive scar. His description was vague, yet compelling enough for 2 deputies to interview him. Art, a gaunt man with piercing blue eyes, insisted the bunker was not far from water, maybe a creek or a small lake. He offered to lead them to the exact spot if they would only trust his visions. While skepticism ran high among the seasoned officers, the sheer desperation to find the boys meant no lead, however outlandish, could be entirely dismissed. The deputies, working on a limited budget and dwindling daylight hours, spent half a day with Art, driving him to various remote locations near bodies of water, guided by his often contradictory feelings. They crisscrossed the wilderness, their patrol car, a Chevrolet Tahoe, churning up dust on unpaved roads, specifically traveling on unmaintained logging trails for hours. Each time, Art would point to a patch of woods, claiming he felt a strong presence, only for systematic searches, sometimes involving small ground crews, to yield nothing but undisturbed forest. The terrain was incredibly challenging, dense with thick undergrowth and rocky terrain, with no signs of any hidden structures. The GPS coordinates for one of their dead-end searches were 43.85 degree N, 74.45 degree W, deep within a particularly remote section of the park, approximately 15 miles southwest of Camp Hemlock. This location was confirmed by their onboard police GPS unit. Meanwhile, social media became a breeding ground for rampant conspiracy theories. Websites dedicated to missing persons cases dissected every detail, with armchair detectives proposing elaborate scenarios. Some suggested the boys had been taken by a reclusive cult rumored to exist deep in the Adirondacks, while others pointed to inconsistencies in the camp's safety protocols, suggesting an inside job. The sheer volume of information, much of it erroneous, created a cacophony of noise that threatened to drown out the genuine investigative efforts. Detective Vance found herself sifting through dozens of emails daily, each claiming to hold the key to the mystery, some even including hand-drawn maps of supposed secret tunnels. The pressure was immense, the media glare relentless. With every passing day, the hope of finding Michael and David alive dwindled, replaced by the grim reality that the case was growing colder, obscured by a fog of speculation and dead ends. Dead. The wild goose chases, though frustrating, were a necessary evil in the desperate search. Could one of these unlikely theories, however, hold a kernel of truth hidden within its bizarre claims, waiting to be uncovered amidst the noise? The initial flurry of activity eventually subsided, as did the media's relentless spotlight. By the end of 2015, the active search for Michael and David Miller had dwindled to a routine missing persons investigation. The case, once front-page news, slowly receded into the back pages, eventually becoming a file among hundreds of others in the cold case unit. For the Miller family, however, the nightmare had only just begun. Their lives were irrevocably altered, marked by an agonizing void that no passage of time could fill. The emotional toll was immense, a constant ache in their hearts that resonated with every passing day. The first anniversary of their disappearance, July 14, 2016, was a somber affair. The family held a small private vigil near the entrance of Camp Hemlock, which had since closed its doors permanently, its reputation too tarnished by the tragedy. The parents, Sarah and Robert Miller, spoke quietly to the few reporters who showed up, their voices hoarse with grief and unanswered questions. Sarah wore a locket with photos of her 2 boys, her fingers constantly tracing their smiling faces. "Every day is a struggle," Robert said, his gaze fixed on the dense tree line, his voice barely above a whisper. We just want them home. We need to know what happened. In the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, the evidence boxes pertaining to the Miller twins' disappearance grew dusty on a high shelf. Box 7C14, labeled Miller Twins, Case File 2015-0801, contained everything: initial police reports, volunteer search logs, maps of the search grid, photographs of the abandoned lodge, and transcriptions of every false lead and wild tip. The sheer volume of paper seemed to mock the lack of answers. Detective Vance, though now assigned to other active cases, would occasionally pull down the box, flipping through the reports, hoping a fresh pair of eyes might spot something previously missed. She had conducted over 150 interviews in the first year alone, yet each path led to a dead end, each conversation yielding no real breakthroughs. The average daily temperature throughout that first summer of the search was 75 degrees, 24 degrees C, adding to the discomfort of the exhaustive physical search. By 2020, 5 years had passed since the twins vanished. The pain for the Millers remained raw, a constant ache. Birthdays came and went. Holidays were marked by their absence. The community, while still sympathetic, had largely moved on, the memory of the missing boys fading into a local legend, a chilling bedtime story about the dangers of the woods. The family commissioned a private investigator, a former FBI agent named John Davies, in 2018. Davies spent months re-interviewing witnesses, re-examining the initial reports, and even employing a new drone survey of the lodge area. His comprehensive report, delivered in late 2019, regretfully concluded that without new evidence, the case remained unsolvable. The 100-page document, which included high-resolution aerial photographs, revealed no previously unknown features or anomalies around the abandoned lodge. The case had truly gone cold, a testament to the wilderness's ability to keep its darkest secrets. The question lingered, a quiet hum in the background of everyone's minds. Would the truth about the Miller twins ever emerge from the shadows? Comment, never forget, if you believe cold cases can always be solved. The years between 2015 and 2025 became known, to those who still followed the Miller case, as the lost decade. The official investigation stagnated, cycling through multiple detectives as officers retired or were reassigned. Each new detective, though bringing a fresh perspective, ultimately faced the same brick wall: no new evidence, no credible leads, and the passage of time eroding memories and scattering potential witnesses. The original case file, meticulously organized, eventually became a historical artifact, a weighty testament to an enduring mystery, gathering dust in the archives of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. This prolonged period of inactivity was a constant source of frustration for the family and for Captain Vance, who had seen many cases go cold, but few with such a stark, unsettling absence of any trace. Detective Vance, now a captain, often found herself glancing at the Miller file box, perched high on the shelf. The weight of the unsolved case, despite her many successes, was a persistent shadow. She had attempted to revisit the case in 2022, securing funding for a new ground-penetrating radar, GPR survey around the abandoned lodge. The survey, conducted using a GSSI SCR 3000 unit specifically chosen for its ability to penetrate various soil types, revealed no significant subsurface anomalies consistent with grave sites or hidden structures within 20 feet of the lodge's foundation. The scan, performed on October 18, 2022, provided clear readings down to a depth of 15 feet. It was another dead end, another wave of disappointment. Meanwhile, outside the confines of law enforcement, the disappearance of the Miller twins morphed into an enduring local legend. Online forums buzzed with amateur sleuths and conspiracy theorists. One prominent theory, propagated by a self-proclaimed expert on local folklore, suggested the boys had been taken by the mythical Adirondack Shadow, a creature said to inhabit the deepest parts of the forest, luring children away. This theory, however outlandish, gained traction in some circles, feeding into the pervasive sense of dread surrounding the abandoned camp and even generating local interest in paranormal investigations. The sheer volume of internet chatter, often contradictory and unfounded, made it difficult for legitimate information to surface. The family, exhausted but resolute, continued their fight. Their attorney, Ms. Evelyn Reed, a tenacious advocate for missing children, kept the case in the public eye through regular media appeals and petitions. she tirelessly lobbied state and federal agencies for renewed resources, arguing that the passage of time only made the boys' situation more perilous and the need for answers more urgent. Ms. Reed even explored the possibility of a civil suit against the camp for negligence, but without any physical evidence of what transpired, legal avenues were limited. The sheer cost of continued independent searches and legal fees began to take a heavy toll on the Miller family, both financially and emotionally. The last remaining lead for the family came in 2023 when an anonymous letter arrived, simply stating "Cellar secrets," followed by a crude drawing of a padlock. Despite extensive forensic analysis of the paper and ink by a state police document examiner on November 5, 2023, no tangible connection or sender could be identified. The chilling message, however, served as a stark reminder of the enduring mystery, reigniting a faint flicker of hope and dread within the family, pushing them to believe that the truth, however dark, was still out there. Would the secret hidden in the cellar ever truly come to light? After a decade of dormancy, the cold case of the Miller twins suddenly roared back to life, sparked by an unlikely convergence of technological advancements and a tragic natural disaster. By the early summer of 2025, a devastating wildfire, fueled by an unusually dry spring, ripped through the Adirondack Park, consuming thousands of acres, including the long-abandoned Camp Hemlock. The fire, which reached temperatures exceeding 1,200 degrees to 650 degrees at its peak, reduced the dilapidated camp lodge to a pile of smoldering ash and rubble. The scale of the destruction was immense, but ironically, this devastation became the key to unlocking the decade-old mystery. Once the fires were contained and the area deemed safe for entry, a team from the State Police's Forensic Technology Unit was dispatched to survey the fire-ravaged camp, primarily to assess the structural damage to potential historical sites. Among their equipment was a Kongsberg EM-2040 compact multi-beam echo sounder, typically used for underwater mapping, but ingeniously adapted for highly precise land surveys of complex, uneven terrain. This specialized unit was flown over the site using a high-altitude drone, meticulously collecting data points across the entire former camp footprint. The device, mounted on a drone, created an incredibly detailed 3D topographic map of the burned area, providing unparalleled precision in identifying subtle ground features. During the analysis of the drone's data, an anomaly was detected beneath the former footprint of the old lodge. The fire had cleared away years of debris, undergrowth, and even some of the collapsed foundation, revealing what appeared to be a previously obscured structural irregularity. The 3D map showed a distinct, almost perfectly rectangular void, approximately 10 feet by 15 feet, located roughly 5 feet beneath the surface of where the lodge's cellar would have been. This void was far too precise to be a natural rock formation or root system. Its location, directly beneath the spot where the K-9 units had shown such intense interest a decade prior, sent a jolt through Captain Vance, who was reviewing the preliminary findings on her high-resolution monitor. Concurrently, a new initiative by the New York State Police involved cross-referencing all long-term missing persons cases with the recently expanded National DNA Database for unidentified remains. While this specific database didn't immediately yield a match for the Miller twins, it did flag a partial DNA profile found on a forgotten piece of evidence from the original search. A single discarded flashlight battery recovered near the abandoned lodge in 2015. The battery, a standard Duracell AA with a manufacturing batch number E0714Z, had been overlooked as irrelevant at the time, simply logged as found near the perimeter. The DNA, a faint trace of skin cells, was now identified as belonging to a known transient, a man named Silas Black, who had a minor criminal record for petty theft and was known to frequent abandoned structures in the region. Black had been questioned briefly in 2015 but had provided an alibi that was accepted at the time. The combined technological sparks, the echo sounder revealing a hidden void, and the DNA match on a seemingly innocuous item, suddenly blew the Miller twins' cold case wide open. The fire had inadvertently unmasked a secret the wilderness had held for a decade, pointing directly to a hidden space beneath the very structure where the boys were last seen. The question now was, what lay hidden within that unseen void? The tantalizing discovery of the subterranean void beneath the incinerated lodge demanded immediate, methodical investigation. On August 1st, 2025, nearly 10 years to the day since the Miller twins vanished, a specialized team from the State Police's Forensic Archaeology Unit arrived at the site. They brought with them not divers, as there was no water, but a small, remotely operated vehicle, ROV, typically used for confined space inspections in industrial settings. This particular model, a Super Gator ROV modified with a powerful LED light and a high-definition camera capable of 4K video recording, could navigate tight, unstable spaces too dangerous for human entry, ensuring maximum safety for the team. The operation began at 08:08 a.m., with clear skies and a temperature of 72 degrees 20 Celsius. Dr. Anya Sharma, a seasoned forensic archaeologist with over 20 years of experience in crime scene recovery, led the team. They began by carefully excavating the burned debris and topsoil directly above the detected anomaly. The ground was still warm in places from the recent wildfire, and the air hung heavy with the scent of charred wood and damp earth. After hours of careful work, meticulously removing ash and structural remnants, they uncovered a collapsed section of stone and timber, revealing a narrow vertical shaft leading down into darkness. The shaft, roughly 3 feet by 3 feet, appeared to be a makeshift entry point, crudely fashioned from broken cellar steps and rubble, suggesting it was hastily constructed. Dr. Sharma initiated the ROV deployment at 11:45 a.m. The Super Gator, tethered by a reinforced cable capable of withstanding up to 500 pounds of tension, was slowly lowered into the void. The live video feed, displayed on a high-resolution monitor for the team, was initially obscured by dust and shadow, but as the ROV descended, a clearer picture emerged. The air inside the void was incredibly stagnant, thick with the smell of damp earth and something else, something metallic and acrid, which gave the team an immediate sense of unease. The temperature inside the cavity was a stable 55 degrees, 12.8 degrees, significantly cooler than the outside air, indicating a sealed environment and preserving any contents within. The radio chat between Dr. Sharma and her team was tense, filled with clipped commands and hushed observations, captured by the on-site recording equipment. ROV log, 12:03 p.m. Dr. Sharma, ROV descending. Mark depth at 12 feet. Visibility improving. Technician, 1. Confirming depth, Dr. Sharma. Air quality reading stable, no immediate hazards detected. Oxygen levels at 20.8%. Dr. Sharma. Roger. Camera panning left. Adjust light intensity. What is that on the floor? Is that fabric? Technician 2. Zooming in. Appears to be degraded textile, Dr. Sharma. Color looks faded red, consistent with, children's clothing. Dr. Sharma. Hold position. Pan slowly to the right. Is that a small wooden crate and something else, partially obscured behind it? Get a closer view of the crate. The ROV maneuvered, its powerful 10,000 lumen LED light illuminating the small enclosed space. The hidden void was, in fact, a crude subterranean chamber, roughly 10 feet by 15 feet, dug directly beneath what was once the lodge's cellar. Inside, the camera's lens focused on a small, red piece of fabric, unmistakably the remains of a child's t-shirt. Beside it, a rusted metal toy car lay on the damp earth. The most chilling sight, however, was a makeshift wooden crate, slightly larger than a footlocker, tucked into a recess. The camera zoomed in, revealing a faded, handwritten label on the side of the crate. M&D-M. The implication was unmistakable and sent a collective shiver down the spines of the investigators. This was not just a hidden space. It was a space intimately connected to the vanished twins. Comment truth if you think this is the breakthrough they needed. The crude initials M and DM on the wooden crate were a gut punch, transforming a decade-old cold case into an immediate high-stakes recovery operation. The Forensic Archaeology Unit worked meticulously, their movements precise and deliberate as they carefully enlarged the access shaft. On August 2, 2025, they finally managed to retrieve the first objects from the hidden chamber. The air, despite the lingering scent of smoke from the fire, now carried an undertone of grim anticipation. The recovery process began at 09 Cellar a.m. under a cloudy sky. The small, faded red t-shirt was the first item brought to the surface. It was heavily degraded, damp, and brittle, but the faint outline of a Camp Hemlock logo was still visible on its chest. The shirt's size was consistent with that worn by a 12-year-old boy, specifically a youth-size medium. Dr. Sharma carefully placed it into a sterile evidence bag, her expression solemn, knowing the profound significance of this initial find. Alongside the shirt, they recovered the rusted toy car, a small die-cast model that Michael and David were known to have played with constantly. The tiny vehicle, once a source of joy, now felt like a relic from a forgotten past, its once vibrant paint long since chipped away. Next, the makeshift wooden crate was carefully hoisted out. It was constructed from rough-hewn planks, nailed together with evident haste, using common steel nails. The exterior bore visible scorch marks from the recent wildfire, but the contents inside appeared to have been largely protected from the intense heat, thanks to the insulating properties of the surrounding earth. Dr. Sharma and her team immediately transported the items to the State Police Crime Laboratory in Albany, a state-of-the-art facility equipped for analyzing highly degraded materials, arriving at 1:30 p.m. The lab's internal temperature was maintained at 68 degrees Celsius, down 20 degrees Celsius, with 40% humidity, optimal for preserving fragile evidence and preventing further degradation. At the lab, the objects underwent immediate forensic analysis. Using FTIR, Fourier Transform Infrared Spectroscopy, the textile from the T-shirt was analyzed to identify its precise composition and any residual fibers or substances. The analysis confirmed it was 100% cotton, consistent with standard camp apparel. More critically, trace amounts of earth and what appeared to be dried organic residue were found embedded in the fabric, providing potential links to the burial environment. A preliminary spectral analysis of the rust on the toy car, conducted with an X-ray fluorescence (XRF) spectrometer, identified the metal as a common alloy of steel and iron, and revealed trace elements of lead and zinc, consistent with the materials used in toys from the early 2010s, with a specific alloy composition of Fa 98.2%, C 1.5%, Psi 0.3%. But the most significant finding came from the interior of the wooden crate. Inside, carefully folded, were two small, worn duffel bags, both emblazoned with the Camp Hemlock logo and bearing the distinct serial numbers CHL 2015-012 and CHL 2015-013. Within one of the bags, wrapped in a plastic grocery bag, were two toothbrushes, two hairbrushes, and a faded photograph of Michael and David smiling broadly. Most chillingly, tucked within a small zippered pocket of one of the duffel bags, was a small, crudely drawn map. It depicted the lodge, a dotted line leading to the cellar, and then an arrow pointing to a small, hand-drawn X with the words, "Hidden here." The map was undeniably drawn by a child's hand, its lines shaky, its details simple. The discovery of these personal items, particularly the map, not only linked the items definitively to the Miller twins, but also suggested they had actively hidden them, pointing to a more complex, perhaps deliberate scenario than simple disappearance. What could have compelled the twins to create such a desperate, hidden message, clearly indicating they believed their belongings needed to be concealed? The crude initials M and DM on the wooden crate were a gut punch, transforming a decade-old cold case into an immediate, high-stakes recovery operation. The forensic archaeology unit worked meticulously, their movements precise and deliberate, as they carefully enlarged the access shaft. On August 2nd, 2025, they finally managed to retrieve the first objects from the hidden chamber. The air, despite the lingering scent of smoke from the fire, now carried an undertone of grim anticipation. The recovery process began at 09 a.m. under a cloudy sky. The small, faded red T-shirt was the first item brought to the surface. It was heavily degraded, damp, and brittle, but the faint outline of a Camp Hemlock logo was still visible on its chest. The shirt's size was consistent with that worn by a 12-year-old boy, specifically a youth-size medium. Dr. Sharma carefully placed it into a sterile evidence bag, her expression solemn, knowing the profound significance of this initial find. Alongside the shirt, they recovered the rusted toy car, a small die-cast model that Michael and David were known to have played with constantly. The tiny vehicle, once a source of joy, now felt like a relic from a forgotten past, its once vibrant paint long since chipped away. Next, the makeshift wooden crate was carefully hoisted out. It was constructed from rough-hewn planks, nailed together with evident haste using common steel nails. The exterior bore visible scorch marks from the recent wildfire, but the contents inside appeared to have been largely protected from the intense heat, thanks to the insulating properties of the surrounding earth. Dr. Sharma and her team immediately transported the items to the State Police Crime Laboratory in Albany, a state-of-the-art facility equipped for analyzing highly degraded materials, arriving at 1:30 p.m. The lab's internal temperature was maintained at 68 degrees, 20 degrees C, with 40% humidity, optimal for preserving fragile evidence and preventing further degradation. At the lab, the objects underwent immediate forensic analysis. Using FTIR, Fourier Transform Infrared Spectroscopy, the textile from the T-shirt was analyzed to identify its precise composition and any residual fibers or substances. The analysis confirmed it was 100% cotton, consistent with standard camp apparel. More critically, trace amounts of earth and what appeared to be dried organic residue were found embedded in the fabric, providing potential links to the burial environment. A preliminary spectral analysis of the rust on the toy car, conducted with an X-ray fluorescence (XRF) spectrometer, identified the metal as a common alloy of steel and iron and revealed trace elements of lead and zinc, consistent with the materials used in toys from the early 2010s, with a specific alloy composition of Fe 98.2%, C 1.5%, Psi 0.3%. But the most significant finding came from the interior of the wooden crate. Inside, carefully folded, were two small, worn duffel bags, both emblazoned with the Camp Hemlock logo and bearing the distinct serial numbers CHL 2015-012 and CHL 2015-013. Within one of the bags, wrapped in a plastic grocery bag, were two toothbrushes, two hairbrushes, and a faded photograph of Michael and David, smiling broadly. Most chillingly, tucked within a small, zippered pocket of one of the duffel bags, was a small, crudely drawn map. It depicted the lodge, a dotted line leading to the cellar, and then an arrow pointing to a small, hand-drawn X with the words, "Hidden here." The map was undeniably drawn by a child's hand, its lines shaky, its details simple. The discovery of these personal items, particularly the map, not only linked the items definitively to the Miller twins, but also suggested they had actively hidden them, pointing to a more complex, perhaps deliberate scenario than simple disappearance. What could have compelled the twins to create such a desperate, hidden message, clearly indicating they believed their belongings needed to be concealed? The discovery of the hidden chamber and the twins' personal effects, particularly the crude map, catapulted the investigation into overdrive. The focus shifted dramatically from merely finding the boys to understanding what had truly transpired in that hidden space, a chilling question that had silently haunted a decade of unanswered prayers. The implication of the map was undeniable, painting a terrifying picture. The twins had painstakingly hidden their belongings, meticulously concealing them within this makeshift vault, suggesting a desperate, deliberate act of self-preservation, or a grim attempt to leave behind a clue rather than a simple accident or an abduction from the surface that had been the prevailing theory for so long. The most agonizing question of all now loomed with crushing weight. With their personal effects recovered, where were Michael and David themselves, and what fate had truly befallen them in this forgotten, subterranean world? On August 3rd, 2025, precisely at 07:00 a.m., under the cool, crisp Adirondack morning air, the team began the arduous, somber process of fully unraveling the mysteries of the subterranean chamber. Under Dr. Anya Sharma's careful, experienced supervision, the chamber itself was meticulously excavated. Layers of damp earth, loose rocks, and fragments of decaying timber that formed the crude ceiling and walls were painstakingly removed, each piece examined with forensic precision for any hidden clues, any whisper of what had occurred. The air inside the confined space was still and heavy, carrying the lingering, sickly sweet scent of damp earth and decay, a profound, almost suffocating silence that spoke volumes of its grim history. The initial layers of debris yielded nothing new, only reinforcing the crude, hasty construction of the space, suggesting it was more a desperate burrow than a carefully engineered hideaway. The floor of the chamber, once cleared of the initial debris, revealed a compressed layer of undisturbed soil. It was here, approximately 2 feet below the chamber's excavated floor, that the geophysical survey equipment, specifically an electrical resistivity tomography (ERT) system, registered startling anomalies. The ERT system, designed to detect minute variations in subsurface electrical resistance, immediately indicated 2 distinct, elongated areas of disturbed earth, consistent with grave sites. The readings were remarkably precise, pinpointing anomalies at a depth of 7 feet from the original ground level, a significant finding that brought a palpable tension to the surface. The air thickened with a chilling sense of dread among the investigators. This was no longer just a missing persons case that had baffled them for years, but unequivocally a potential homicide investigation, its gravity settling heavily on everyone present, a grim confirmation of their darkest fears. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows, but the mood remained somber, the weight of the impending discovery almost unbearable. With extreme caution, the team began the process of forensic excavation at the identified locations. The soil was painstakingly removed, layer by layer, using small hand trowels and fine brushes, a process that felt agonizingly slow. Each scoop of earth carefully sifted through fine mesh for any additional clues, however minute. The painstaking process lasted hours under the watchful eyes of Captain Vance and other state police officials, who observed the meticulous work with grim, unwavering determination. The grim discovery came around 3:30 p.m. The skeletal remains of 2 individuals, buried shallowly within the confines of the chamber. The remains were carefully exhumed, a delicate operation performed by Dr. Sharma's team, utilizing specialized forensic tools and techniques, including sterile containers and photographic mapping, ensuring no bone fragment or piece of evidence was lost or contaminated. The state of preservation indicated they had been there for a significant period, consistent with the 10 years since the boys' disappearance, their decomposition hastened by the damp, confined environment. Preliminary anthropological analysis of the remains revealed consistent bone structure for 2 adolescent males, specifically showing age indicators for individuals between 11 and 13 years old, narrowing the possibilities significantly. Crucially, the size and age estimation derived from bone development precisely matched the known ages and heights of Michael and David Miller at the time of their disappearance, which were 5 feet 1 inch and 5 feet 2 inches, respectively. Further examination also revealed minor dental anomalies, including specific molars with unique fillings, consistent with dental records provided by the Miller family's dentist, Dr. Evelyn Thorne, whose patient ID for Michael was M2015-01, and for David was D2015-02, providing irrefutable evidence. The preliminary identification was agonizingly clear, leaving absolutely no room for doubt. The hidden chamber, the desperate map, the buried belongings, it all painted a terrifying, coherent picture. The Miller twins had not simply vanished from the camp. They had been trapped, or worse, deliberately hidden within this secret underground prison, their final moments shrouded in mystery until now. The question that had haunted a decade was finally answered, but in a way no one could have ever truly prepared for, a truth far more horrifying than initial fears, shattering any lingering hope. The full unraveling of the chamber had brought undeniable, heartbreaking confirmation. The identity of the remains was now absolutely certain, but the true horrors of the scene and the full, agonizing story behind their presence were yet to be formally confirmed and understood, leaving investigators to ponder the chilling circumstances of their last days. The confirmation of Michael and David Miller's deaths brought a devastating, yet strangely final chapter to a decade-long mystery that had not only consumed a family, but had also baffled seasoned law enforcement for years, leaving a gaping void in a community forever marked by their disappearance. The initial shock that rippled through the Hamilton County region quickly gave way to a renewed, fervent determination to seek justice, to finally understand the horrific, unimaginable circumstances that led 2 innocent, vibrant boys to their final resting place in a hidden underground chamber, a secret tomb meticulously constructed and concealed beneath an abandoned camp lodge. The subsequent police investigation, now fully re-energized and laser-focused, honed in intensely on Silas Black, the transient whose DNA had been found on the crucial flashlight battery near the lodge, a seemingly minor clue that, in hindsight, held the key to unlocking the entire tragedy. Black was eventually located in a remote, secluded part of the Catskills, living a reclusive, almost hermit-like existence, deliberately hidden from the prying eyes of society, approximately 150 miles southeast of Camp Hemlock, deep within the dense forests of Greene County. He was apprehended without incident on August 7, 2025, precisely at 14 Nosh local time, his apprehension bringing a profound sense of closure to the initial phase of the investigation and a sigh of relief from the tireless investigators. Under persistent and rigorous questioning by Captain Vance and her specialized team of interrogators, operating out of a secure state police facility in Albany, he eventually confessed to having discovered the hidden chamber, claiming he stumbled upon it by sheer accident while seeking shelter from a sudden, violent thunderstorm during the summer of 2015, specifically on July 16th. He steadfastly denied any direct involvement in the boys' deaths, maintaining with a chilling lack of emotion that he found them already deceased within the chamber, their small bodies huddled together in the dark. In a moment of panic and overwhelming self-preservation, fearing he would be blamed for their demise, a common fear among those living on the fringes of society, accustomed to being unfairly targeted, he admitted to having buried them deeper within the chamber, using crude tools he found nearby, before hastily and thoroughly sealing the makeshift entrance with rocks and debris, further obscuring their tragic fate for 10 agonizing years. His testimony, though undeniably self-serving and morally reprehensible, provided critical, harrowing insights into the chamber's grim history and the tragic scene within, corroborating many of the forensic findings that Dr. Sharma's team had meticulously uncovered, including the type of soil displacement. The full forensic autopsy, performed by the State Police Chief Medical Examiner, Dr. Lena Hansen, at the Albany Medical Center on August 6, 2025, precisely at 09:00 a.m., combined with Black's detailed statement, eventually concluded the boys had died from prolonged exposure and severe dehydration, likely succumbing within days of being trapped, a horrific but not intentional act of direct malice by Black himself, though his subsequent actions after discovery were undeniably criminal and profoundly unconscionable. He was subsequently charged with multiple felonies, including tampering with physical evidence, New York Penal Law Part 21540, and failing to report a death, New York Public Health Law Part 4141. Facing significant legal repercussions for his callous disregard for the Miller twins' remains and his obstruction of justice. The case of the Miller twins, a chilling saga that unfolded over a decade, became a sobering, invaluable lesson in the enduring power of cold cases and the often unforeseen, sometimes tragic ways in which technological advancements and even natural events can finally unearth buried truths. It powerfully underscored the critical importance of persistently re-evaluating old evidence with new techniques, as so vividly demonstrated by the serendipitous DNA database match from a discarded flashlight battery, specifically identified as a Duracell copper top with batch number 0714ZK9, and the sophisticated Kongsberg EM2040 multi-beam echo sounder used after the devastating wildfire, proving that no piece of evidence, however minor or seemingly insignificant, should ever be truly abandoned or dismissed without thorough re-examination. The fire, which had consumed so much of the forest and the old camp structures, paradoxically became the ultimate, albeit tragic, catalyst for uncovering a decade of hidden tragedy, proving that even nature itself can sometimes lend an unexpected hand in solving the most stubborn and heartbreaking mysteries. This profound and deeply resonant case will undoubtedly become a cornerstone for future training exercises in forensic archaeology, cold case analysis, and interagency cooperation, teaching future generations of investigators about the crucial virtues of patience, perseverance, and the often unpredictable nature of evidence. It stands as a testament to the fact that justice, though sometimes delayed and hard-won, can ultimately prevail through diligent, persistent effort and an unwavering commitment to truth. The narrative of the Miller twins serves as a powerful reminder that while some wounds never fully heal, the discovery of truth can, at the very least, allow for a measure of peace and accountability. Today, a small, unassuming, yet deeply profound memorial stands near the exact site of the former Camp Hemlock Lodge, now a cleared and quiet patch of earth that whispers stories of the past, visited by few but remembered by many. Two precisely cut granite markers, side by side, bear the names Michael and David Miller, beautifully etched with their dates of birth and the haunting date of their disappearance, July 14th, 2015. Beside them, a small, polished bronze plaque reads, "Though lost to us for a decade, your light now guides us. May your memory inspire the endless search for truth and justice for all who are lost and those who seek them." The memorial serves as a quiet, dignified testament to their vibrant young lives, a poignant, enduring symbol of a family's unbreakable love and unimaginable resilience in the face of the ultimate loss, and a stark, ever-present reminder of the wilderness's raw, unforgiving nature and the dark secrets it can sometimes hold within its vast, silent depths. The story of Michael and David Miller, once a chilling local legend whispered around campfires, passed down through generations, is now a powerful global narrative of profound loss, immense grief, unimaginable resilience, the tireless dedication of investigators who never gave up, and the relentless, unwavering pursuit of truth, even when buried for 10 long years. Their tragic but finally understood legacy serves as a beacon of hope for other families still searching for answers, a poignant reminder for us all to never give up the fight for closure, for knowledge, and for justice, ensuring that no vanishing goes unheard, no truth remains buried forever. Share their story to keep their memory alive, and to remind everyone that some mysteries, even the very coldest ones, can eventually, against all odds, be solved.